Hello, in this video we will discuss about the diabetic hypertension. So the diabetes mellitus too we will discuss, and also we will understand about the hypertension and how hypertension will occur. That is the separate concept, and there are a lot of things which that is involved for the diabetic hypertension. But here is just let's begin to understand. This is the blood circulatory system of the person, diabetic person. So first of all, we should need to understand about the insulin working with the tissue, with the insulin receptor. Anyhow, here is the hypertension. This hypertension is the increased blood pressure due to increased volume in blood and that extracellular matrix or constriction of blood vessels due to many complications. So there are the many complications which that lead to constriction of the blood vessel and increase the volume in blood extracellular matrix, while the inside basically is the blood circulatory system which that's contain less water. How it's possible? And sometime it will increase the blood pressure and decrease the blood pressure depending on the situation. So here is the when we will food intake the diabetic person, so the glucose level will be high. In this way the glucose level will be high, it means the hyperglycemia will be occur, which can be fixed by a insulin produced from the pancreas. So the hyperglycemic index will basically lead to trigger the insulin production more when the glucose will be more in the blood circulatory system. So here is the tissue. The several tissue contain insulin receptor, and after this insulin will bind, so the glucose are present in the blood will move into the tissue, into the cell through a GLUT4 channel which that is stimulated via a insulin receptor or insulin like growth factor 1. So this is the tissue of the body normally. While if we will discuss about the insulin resistance, so when insulin resistance means the resistance of insulin is the intracellular, here is the matrix. So the insulin resistance means the insulin receptor will be damaged due to the aging or due to that there are many functions, for example overeating. So the our production of insulin will lead to damage the insulin receptor, and in this way the insulin will not bind and glucose will not enter, so the hyperglycemia will be occur. After this hyperglycemia will lead to endothelial cell damage. How endothelial cell damage? And loss of albumin. So let's here I am drawing the process of the endothelial cell damage. So remember the glucose through GLUT4 channel for the endothelial cell is not required the insulin. So the insulin will not require, so the glucose will move inside into the endothelial cell, and the our production of energy due to the our inflow of the glucose into the endothelial cell of the artery and vein, which that will lead to reactive oxygen species production and ATP, which that will be damaged due to the stimulation of the reactive oxygen species and damage. So that mechanism is very lengthy, but here is you can understand the our production of energy for the endothelial cell will lead to damage the endothelial cell, and this damaged endothelial cell will create the space, and this space the albumin protein can enter into the extracellular matrix of the tunica media. So in this way you can see that there can be arteriosclerosis and atherosclerosis due to the plaque development when the cholesterol will enter inside. So in this way you can understand the water will lead to follow the albumin due to the negative charge in the albumin. So the water will move inside. The retention of the water will lead to constrict the blood vessel and damage the blood vessel, and lumen will be narrow. while the new lumen can be narrow, but the shape, but the basically the size of artery can be more rigid and increase. While in this way, the blood pressure will be increased due to the constriction of blood vessel, which that is totally depend on the Bernoulli's equation in the physics, if you remember about that. So that means that where the pressure will be high, the area of the volume will be low, area will be low. So here is the volume will be low of the blood vascular system, so the pressure will be high. So in this way, the hemorrhage, brain hemorrhage, or there are many complications. The bursting of artery, as well as here is the retinopathy, and the nephropathy will be occur. Why? Because the retina of the eye, which contain a smaller thin blood vessel, which that will be ruptured due to the high blood pressure, and the angiogenesis will be occur, but the again leakage of that angiogenic blood vessel. So after this, the hypoxia will be occur and damage the neuron, optic nerves damage due to the rupturing of the blood vessel. Anyhow, in this way, the macula blind, here you can see the macula will be blind and retina basically will be covered, and in this way, the retinopathy will be occur. So anyhow, here is the nephritis and nephropathy can be occur due to how basically here is the also glomerulus contain thin blood vessel, and in this way the blood flow will be increased, which that will lead to rupturing of the glomerulus is known as the nephritic problem. And on the other hand, the loss of solute will be more due to the high blood pressure, high glucose level, which that is the homeostatic condition will lead to excrete the glucose with the water. So the water is very important and required water for the excretion of glucose, and the polyuria will be occur. And in this way, the polyuria can be lead to polydipsia. But in this way, the kidney failure is due to the diabetic hypertension. Anyhow, in this way, here is the polyuria can be occur. After the polyuria formation will lead to loss of solute. So when loss of solute will lead to hypotension. Hypotension means the decrease of the blood pressure due to the decrease of the volume of the blood. Why volume of the blood? Because the loss of the water. But the hypotension is the rare, while the hypertension is most and major. So here is the nephropathy. And in this way, the aquaporine channel 2, which that will be inhibition for the reabsorption of water from the nephron through a efferent arteriole. So in this way, you can understand as well here is the polyuria formation. The polyuria is the loss of solute will trigger and hypokalemia, and the hypocalcemia will be occur. And after this, the hypokalemia and hypocalcemia, the ion exchange in cell will be occur. So the ion exchange in cell, which that will lead to basically the hypokalemia and hypocalcemia, which that will ion exchange in cell will be disrupt, and in this way the muscle fatigue, nervous disorder, and the nerve damage. And in this way, here you can see this the extracellular matrix and intracellular matrix of the ions, which that will be imbalanced, which that will lead to non-functional, and in this way the nerve impulse will be not good, and in this way the nervous disorder, and there are a lot of problems will be appear due to the diabetic hypertension. And in this way, here is the glucose level when high, so the water absorption from the tissue into the blood for because the glucose required water for the solubility. So the glucose level high to retention of the water will lead to increase the blood flow and rupturing of the artery, and more urine and more volume will be, because the inhibition of the aquaporine inhibition. So in this way, the aquaporine will not lead to reabsorb, and in this way, the difficult to reabsorption. because there are a lot of water will be excreted for the excretion of the glucose. So on the other hand, the polydipsia can be occur and loss of water. So here is the treatment is the insulin, but insulin is not working still because the insulin receptor will be damaged, but sometimes the insulin can work. But in this case, the famous metformin tablet, that is the metformin, it contains a tablet used as a drug for increasing the insulin like growth factor 1 for enhance the insulin receptor, enhance the GLUT4 channel. So thanks. So that is the diabetic hypertension. That is the overview of this video. I hope you make sense about these. Thanks. Bye.